Parents schemed against my dying stepmom for her money, but I exposed them, leaving our family in ruins. My name is Emma, I'm 17, and my stepmother Jane is the most wonderful person I've ever known. She married my dad when I was just 4. Up until that point, my mom and dad's relationship was painfully acrimonious. I basically never saw him because my mom did everything she could to keep me away, still smarting from their failed relationship. Jane completely changed that. She encouraged everyone to get along and somehow built a stable co-parenting relationship out of the ashes. She was always there for my mom and me, even when she didn't have to be. Jane's a powerhouse. When she met my dad, he was living out of a crappy hotel, totally lost, and my mom hated her guts. Meanwhile, Jane had a good job, a nice house, and she was the only reason my dad started getting visitation rights. She negotiated it all, made sure he started sending child support. Neither she nor my dad could afford an attorney at that point, but she figured it out. It blows my mind when I realize she had no obligation to help me or my mom, yet she made it clear she loved me just as much as my half-brothers, who came along a few years after she married my dad. Even when I was shuffled between my grandparents and my mom's endless string of boyfriends, Jane made sure I had my own room at her house, so I always had a place I belonged. She's literally the opposite of the evil stepmom trope. When I was 15, Jane won a giant lawsuit against an airline company, and she walked away with well over $1 million. The first thing she did? She built trust funds for me and my brothers, wanting to give us the kind of security she never had. She could have lived lavishly, but that's not her style. She paid off her house and stayed put, only splurging here and there, new car, nice family vacations. It made me respect her even more. But about a year ago, I started noticing Jane getting sicker. She was in and out of the hospital, and nobody would tell me or my brothers the truth, though I could tell they knew more than they let on. The tension ramped up when my mom, who'd never stood Jane, started hanging around my dad a lot more. She acted completely out of character, playing the perfect housewife for my brothers whenever Jane was hospitalized. It was so fake and made my skin crawl, especially since my dad seemed to fall for it. I'm not naive, I'm sure mom and dad were sleeping together. My brothers aren't oblivious, either. Every attempt I made to confront my dad was met with denial. Then, my mom started talking about places she wanted to travel, how she needed a new car, and all these random investment plans. For context, she's always been a bartender, barely scraping by for as long as I can remember. Suddenly, she carried herself like someone who was about to have a windfall. That's when a dark suspicion crept in. How does this add up after Jane's diagnosis and the weird energy at home? I decided I couldn't stew in my suspicions any longer, so I went to Jane in the hospital and asked her about my trust fund. She gently explained that if she died, my dad would inherit everything, including full control of all 3 trusts. When she asked why I was so interested, I had no choice but to come clean about what I'd seen, about my parents, about mom's act. It shattered her, and nothing has ever hurt me more than breaking her heart like that, especially after all she's done for us. It's even harder knowing that Jane is basically in hospice now, with irreversible kidney failure and only a few months left. We cried for what felt like hours. Just 2 days ago, everything exploded. My mom stormed into Jane's house in a blazing rage, ready to tear into my dad. It turns out Jane met with her lawyer and changed her will. My dad was cut out completely, and my step-aunt was given control of the trusts. Mom demanded to know how Jane could have known to make this move, and I stepped forward. I told them both that it was me. I said if they wanted to play stupid games, they deserved their stupid prizes. I was not going to let them screw Jane after all the good she brought to our lives. My mom slapped me. My dad looked like the life had drained out of him. That's when my mom admitted she didn't even care about him. She was just pretending so she could get the money if he remarried her. The worst part is my brothers saw everything. Now, on top of losing their mom, they're stuck with a dad who betrayed Jane with his ex and a mother who never even cared. Our family is ruined. I want to say it isn't my fault, but it's hard not to feel the weight of it. The next day, I visited Jane again and told her about how everything had come crashing down. She apologized for dissolving my trust fund. She only did it to keep my mom from getting a dime, but assured me that I'd inherit the house and property as her oldest after she was gone, and that's more valuable than both other trusts combined. She's divorcing my dad before she dies, and honestly, I'm so relieved for her. She made me promise to take care of my brothers and said when I turn 18 this summer, I'd have the right to boot my dad out of the house. I plan to do exactly that. I haven't spoken to my dad since. I can't even look at my mom. I'm completely disgusted and embarrassed by both of them. They're perfect for each other, 2 selfish people who couldn't care less about the pain they cause. When I turn 18, I'm cutting my dad out as much as possible and my mom completely. I hope she rots. Until then, I'm spending every moment I can at the hospital with Jane. I'm deeply messed up by what's happened, and the sense of betrayal gnaws at me, but I can't even fathom how devastated Jane must feel. I know I'll be shattered when she's gone. I can't think about life without her. But at least I know, in her final months, she's surrounded by someone who truly loves her, not people who want to tear her down. For now, my only plan is to use part of the estate when the time comes to fight for guardianship of my twin brothers, so they can keep living in the house once I kick Dad out. If I can't get guardianship, Dad might have to stay, but as soon as I turn 18, I'll be an adult and legally allowed to be responsible for them. I can't stop Dad from taking them if he wants to leave, but my brothers and I have each other, and I know we'll find a way. They're turning 18 in 6 years, and no matter what happens, they'll always have their big sister fighting for them. After the big fight erupted on Sunday, things couldn't have become any more tense than they already were. I haven't spoken to either of my parents since then, and as far as I can tell, they've holed themselves up at my mom's place. Honestly, that's just fine by me and my brothers. We're all still furious, and honestly, they can both stay away for as long as they want. We're better off without the chaos for now. I know it probably isn't technically legal to have us kids alone like this, but I've been caring for my brothers for over a year now. I can definitely manage a few days on my own while my dad gets his act together. I've practically been running this household anyway, and my brothers count on me far more than on either of our parents at this point. In a perfect world, my dad would just leave and let my brothers stay here with me. I'm sure my bio mom would actually support that idea, since right now she pretty much hates all of us, and I doubt that's going to change anytime soon. When it comes to the estate, as I understand it, my brothers will each inherit a third. The remaining third is set aside to keep the house running until my brothers turn 18. When that time comes, it'll be my choice whether I want to keep the house or sell it. Either way, my brothers will still have money left in the trust, so they can strike out on their own if that's what they want. Otherwise, I won't sell the house, I just keep maintaining it, and they could stay with me as long as they'd like. It's their home too. Right now, everything just feels up in the air. All I know for certain is that our parents can stay gone for as long as they want. We'll be just fine without them. Screw both of them, seriously. I hope that clears things up. Update 1. Jane is still alive, and honestly, she's doing shockingly well given everything she's up against. She's always been a fighter, and even as her disease progresses, her attitude stays remarkably positive. She once told me she's grateful she got to see everyone's true colors before she passes, because now she can go into whatever comes next really knowing the truth. Having become unbelievably close these last few months, it hurts more and more knowing she's getting close to the end. She never speaks about it, though. I know it's because she doesn't want to hurt me. But we both know what's coming, so we're just making the best out of every moment we get. I'm not exactly being totally open with her about all the drama at home, but truthfully, I don't think she needs to carry that weight right now. We went ahead and had that surprise celebration of life I planned. To my shock, way more people showed up than I expected. Everyone got an Airbnb close to the hospital where Jane is, and we managed to take her out to the lake near the facility. The whole thing was super low-key, exactly the way Jane would have wanted. I even managed to track down her old college friend on LinkedIn and get him there, which she loved. We had food, music, games, and for the most part, it was this beautiful, chill time. Jane started crying at the end, but she swore it was just because she was overwhelmed with gratitude. I believed her. My brothers are managing as best as can be expected. My aunt, Jane's sister, is paying for them to go to therapy, and they've become way more open in talking to me about what's happening. They just turned 13, but honestly, sometimes it feels like I'm talking to real adults with them now. They're way more independent these days, in a good way, and, other than driving them places, I don't really need to do much for them. Their grades aren't stellar, but they're not failing, which, considering the circumstances, I'll gladly take. They still hang out with friends, and I'm watching for any signs of depression or anything like that. The situation with my mom is honestly as hilarious as it is mortifying. After weeks of ignoring us, she tried to worm her way back into my life, basically begging me to let her move in because her lease was about to expire and she had nowhere to go. That conversation went about as well as you'd expect. She wound up calling me an ungrateful bee and said I couldn't just ignore her because she's my mother. I told her to get out of the house before I called the cops and suggested she go back to my dad, who at that point was only swinging by every few days to check on us and grab some clothes. She didn't take that well and tried coming around a few more times. When I wouldn't let her in, she completely lost it, yelling through the neighborhood like a lunatic. It happened 3 times before I finally called the cops. Because I'm 17, the cops told me there was a chance I'd have to leave with her since technically she was the custodial parent. No way was that happening. I was the only one watching my brothers at the time. That led to this whole ordeal, with my dad finally showing up after a few hours. Once there was a clear adult in the house, and since I'd basically been living there for over a year, they let me stay. The cops told my mom, in no uncertain terms, that if she kept showing up raising hell, they'd arrest her for trespassing since it was Jane's house, not hers. She finally left, but not before calling me nonstop for a while to tell me I owed her and all sorts of other stuff. She's now blocked on everything, and anything she wants to say to me has to go through my dad. As for Dad, well, he's required to be here for another 2 months until I turn 18, so we mostly avoid each other. It's actually not too bad because I've started guilting him into giving me what I want. He was going to contest the divorce, but I told him straight up that if he did, I'd kick him out the second I turned 18. He just signed the paperwork for the fast divorce and is basically doing whatever Jane tells him at this point. I don't openly disrespect him, he's still my dad, but I've made it clear I'm not about to follow his orders anymore. He doesn't fight me on it, just hides out in his room or goes to my mom's house for a day or two until they inevitably argue and she throws him out again. I haven't decided for sure whether I'll kick him out when I turn 18, and we haven't even talked about it, so I'm just waiting to see how things play out. As for me, I'm handling everything as best I can. I managed to find a new job with better pay, so my focus has been on saving up as much as possible and just being there for my brothers. Between work, school, and visiting Jane, I haven't really had time to stop and take everything in, but I know that moment's coming. One of my friends has seriously stepped up for me, helping me juggle everything. I'm incredibly grateful for him and everything he's done for me and my brothers. We'll see what the future holds. Update 2. As many might have guessed, Jane passed away early in the fall of this year. It was sudden and deeply traumatic, but in the sadness there is a small comfort. She lived far longer than any doctor dared predict, and when her time finally came, she was surrounded by those who loved her most: me, my brothers, and my dad. She was on palliative care at the end and felt no pain except for a fleeting instant right before she passed, something for which I am endlessly grateful. In those final days, Jane's body may have been failing her, but her mind was just as sharp as always. I listened to the advice of others and recorded voice messages for my brothers. Initially, I'd wanted video, but by the time we could do it, Jane and I agreed that they didn't need to remember her in a hospital gown, wrapped in tubes. Jane also wrote countless letters for friends, family, and even ones just for me, designed to be opened at different milestones in my life. She gave me one to open immediately after she was gone. While I won't share the details, I can say, without hesitation, that she is, and always will be, the person I call my mother. Reading her words shredded me. Her absence is a hole I can't patch up. A few months have passed, but my heart is still broken. Jane was gentle and kind, someone I hope I can grow to be even a fraction of. My brothers are hurting, of course, but just like before, they're handling it with a quiet strength that always surprises me. Therapy continues, individually and together, and our conversations are honest and deep whenever they need to talk. We were always close, but we've become even closer. Even with my work hours, I make sure I see them as much as I can, doing my best to be the anchor they need. The truth, though, is that I need them just as much. They don't realize they're the only ones I can truly open up to about everything. In a strange twist, now that the glue of our family is gone, we've become more tightly bonded than we ever were before. My relationship with my dad has healed somewhat. We took ourselves to a handful of therapy sessions together, where for the first time, he admitted fault for his past behavior. I've forgiven him as much as I'm able, particularly because he genuinely stepped up for Jane in her last moments. Even though the divorce still went through, he lives with us now, and although there's lingering tension, the situation is improved. I love him, he is my dad, but Jane's illness broke him in a way he couldn't cope with properly. Paradoxically, her death seemed to snap him out of it. I see a different light in him while he works on being the father he always should have been. Some would call it too little too late, but for my own well-being, I've chosen to let go of the resentment. He's still my dad. As for my biological mom, she dropped off the radar as soon as I turned 18. She made a handful of attempts to convince me to let her move in with us, but I refused, and Dad finally told her it was over for good. After we all blocked her, she stopped trying. She has no family who talks to her, so I don't have to worry about her suddenly resurfacing, though I did hear through the grapevine that she's with a new boyfriend now. I have zero interest in checking up on her. She's offered no apology or acknowledgement, and I just don't care anymore. Part of me still smolders with anger at how easily she walked away after pretending for 18 years, just because she wouldn't see a penny of Jane's money. In the end, her true colors bled through. Maybe my feelings will soften someday, but I'm not counting on it. As for myself, I'm doing all right. I've decided to take a year off before starting college, giving myself time to navigate all of this, the grief, the changes, everything. I am still at my old job, putting aside every cent I can manage. My friends have been unwavering in their support, and I genuinely appreciate every encouraging word and helping hand. Right now, I'm taking one day at a time, a rhythm I find comforting. My dream is to study journalism in college next year, but I'm flexible. I can delay school if my family needs me longer than planned. That's just the way it has to be for now. There is something I've considered. Is it possible my dad only changed because he thought he'd get access to the money Jane left? There's even the unsettling idea that he might still be secretly involved with my biological mom, feigning his change just to get close to Jane's inheritance. But honestly, at this stage, I don't see any signs of that. My dad's actions seem genuine, and for my own sanity, that's what I choose to believe. Through all of this, I've learned that sometimes, the worst heartbreaks bring family together in unexpected ways. Jane taught me how to love and how to forgive, and wherever I go from here, I'll carry that with me for the rest of my days. Update 3. I wasn't planning on updating again so soon, but something major happened that I need to get off my chest. It's been about 6 months since Jane passed, and just when I thought we were finally finding our footing, everything got turned upside down again. Last month, I was going through some of Jane's old paperwork, stuff the lawyers needed for finalizing the estate, when I found something that made my blood run cold. Hidden in her desk drawer was a stack of bank statements from an account I'd never seen before. The account had over $200,000 in it, and the statements showed regular deposits going back almost 2 years. All from my dad. At first, I thought maybe it was just Jane being careful with money, but then I noticed the timing. The deposits started right around when Jane first got sick, and they were always the exact amount my dad received from his monthly disability checks. Every single penny he was supposed to be contributing to our household expenses was going into this secret account instead. I confronted him that night. I've never seen my dad look so defeated in my life. Turns out, my biological mom had been blackmailing him the entire time Jane was sick. She had photos and text messages proving their affair, and she threatened to show them to Jane unless Dad started funneling money to her through this account Jane had set up. The sick part? Jane knew about the account. She'd been the one moving the money around, trying to protect Dad from Mom's threats while she was literally dying. My dad broke down completely. He said Jane made him promise never to tell me, that she didn't want me to know how low my mother had sunk. But here's the kicker, my mom never stopped. Even after Jane died, even after we all blocked her, she's been demanding payments. Dad's been liquidating his tools, selling his truck, anything he could to keep paying her off. I lost it. I completely lost my mind. I called my mom using Dad's phone, and when she picked up, I let her have it. I told her I knew everything and that if she ever contacted our family again, I'd press charges for extortion. She had the audacity to laugh and said she had every right to the money since Dad owed her for all the years he wasn't there for me. But then she said something that made my stomach drop. She casually mentioned that she'd been in contact with my brother's school, asking about their schedules and activities. She claimed she was just checking up on her stepsons, but the way she said it made it clear she was threatening them now too. That's when I realized this was never going to end. Jane was gone, but my mom was still finding ways to torture us from the shadows. The next day, I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator with some of the money from Jane's estate. What we found was worse than I imagined. My mom has been living way beyond her means, driving a brand new car, living in an expensive apartment downtown. All funded by the money she'd been extorting from Dad. But more disturbing, the PI discovered she'd been telling people around town that she was Jane's close friend and that Jane had left her money in the will. She's been using Jane's death to scam sympathy and small loans from acquaintances. The PI also found something else. My mom has a new boyfriend, and apparently she's been promising him that she's about to come into a large inheritance. The guy has been paying for most of her lifestyle, thinking he's investing in their future together. I made a decision. I gathered all the evidence, the bank records, the threatening texts, witness statements from the PI, and I went to the police. They arrested her 3 days ago for extortion and fraud. My dad is a mess. He keeps apologizing, saying he should have been stronger, that he should have told me sooner. Part of me is furious that he let this go on for so long, but another part of me understands. Jane was dying, and he was just trying to protect what little peace she had left. The hardest part is explaining this to my brothers. They're angry, not just at our mom, but at Dad for lying, and even at me for keeping them in the dark while I investigated. We had a family meeting with our therapist yesterday, and it got heated. My younger brother accused me of thinking I could handle everything alone, and honestly, he's not wrong. I don't know what happens next. The legal stuff could drag on for months. My mom's boyfriend has been calling the house, demanding to know what's going on with his money. And there's still the question of what other secrets Jane might have been keeping to protect us. But here's what I do know, we're not victims anymore. Jane taught me that family protects family, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. She spent her last months cleaning up messes that weren't hers to clean, and I'll be damned if I let my mother undo all of that. My mom made her choice a long time ago. Now she gets to live with the consequences. Update 4. I thought the nightmare was over when my mom got arrested, but I should have known better. Life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them, and the past few months have been no exception. My mom made bail after 2 weeks in jail. Apparently her new boyfriend liquidated his savings to get her out, still believing she was going to inherit money. The restraining order we got should have kept her away, but that didn't stop her from finding new ways to make our lives hell. It started with the phone calls to my work. She'd call pretending to be different people, a concerned teacher, a family friend, even a social worker once. My manager finally had to change our main number because she was tying up the lines for hours. Then she started showing up places where she knew I'd be. Not close enough to violate the restraining order, but always just visible enough to make me feel watched. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago. I was picking my brothers up from their after-school program when I noticed a car following us home. Same car I'd seen parked across from our house that morning. When I finally confronted the driver at a red light, it turned out to be some guy my mom had hired from Craigslist to keep an eye on her family. The guy seemed as confused as I was and said she'd told him we were in danger and needed protection. That's when I realized my mom had completely lost touch with reality. The woman who used to at least maintain some facade of normalcy was now spinning elaborate fantasies where she was the victim and we were the villains keeping her from her rightful inheritance. But the real bomb dropped last Friday. My dad came home from his weekly therapy session looking like he'd seen a ghost. Turns out, Jane's sister, my aunt who's been managing the trusts, had some disturbing news. Someone had been calling the law firm handling Jane's estate, claiming to be me and asking detailed questions about how to access the money early. When the lawyers got suspicious and called the real me, we realized my mom had been impersonating me for weeks. The worst part? She'd somehow gotten hold of enough personal information to almost convince them. She knew my social security number, Jane's maiden name, Even details about Jane's illness that only family would know. We're still trying to figure out how she got all of it, but my dad thinks she might have gone through Jane's things during those early days when she was playing house. Yesterday, things escalated in a way I never saw coming. My brothers and I were at the grocery store when this woman approached us in the parking lot. She was probably in her 50s, well-dressed, and she knew our names. She introduced herself as Detective Sarah Chen and said she'd been investigating our family's financial irregularities. My stomach dropped. I asked to see her badge, and she fumbled for a few seconds before admitting she wasn't actually a detective. Turns out, my mom had hired her, she's some kind of private investigator, to build a case proving that Jane was mentally incompetent when she changed her will and that I had manipulated her into cutting my parents out. This fake detective had been digging into our lives for months. She knew where my brothers went to school, where I worked, even had photos of us at Jane's celebration of life. She claimed she had evidence that I had isolated Jane from her family and poisoned her against my parents. The whole thing was so elaborate and insane that I almost admired the planning, if it wasn't so terrifying. I called the real police immediately, and they arrested the woman for impersonating an officer. But when they went to arrest my mom, she was gone. Her boyfriend said she'd packed up and left 3 days ago, claiming she had to go save her children from a dangerous situation. Now we're in this weird limbo where we know she's out there somewhere, probably planning something even crazier. The lawyers have put extra security measures on the estate. My brother's school has her photo and instructions not to release any information about them, and I've had to take time off work because I'm too paranoid to leave them alone. My dad has been amazing through all of this, which is something I never thought I'd say. He's been going to Al-Anon meetings because his therapist suggested my mom's behavior resembles that of an active addict, even though drugs aren't involved. He says it's helping him understand that her actions were never really about him or us. She's been living in her own reality for probably years. But here's the thing that's been eating at me. Last week, I found a letter in our mailbox with no return address. Inside was a photocopy of what looked like a marriage certificate. My mom's name, and some guy named Robert Chen. Dated 6 months ago. The same last name as the fake detective who approached us. I haven't told my dad or brothers yet, but I think my mom might have married this private investigator. The whole thing could have been an elaborate long con from the beginning. Maybe she met this guy, convinced him we had money, and they've been working together to try to get access to Jane's estate. The scary part is, if that's true, we're dealing with two people now instead of just my mom's isolated crazy. And professional investigators, even sketchy ones, know how to really dig into someone's life. I've been having nightmares about them showing up at the house, or worse, somehow getting to my brothers when I'm not around. Jane always told me that family protects family, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm in over my head. Part of me thinks we should just pack up and move somewhere my mom can't find us, but this is our home. Jane wanted us to have this house, this stability. I won't let some twisted version of my mother take that away from us too.